You know, it's really nice when you buy a video game and it's chock full of missions, side quests and collectibles, but by golly can it be overwhelming. Where do I start? Do I go straight for the main mission and get that out of the way, or do I get on with all the busy work, level up like nobody's business, and then mince everything within a 12-mile radius of the main plot? Decisions. Sometimes you just need a game that doesn't come with a list of demands as long as the Great Wall of China, one that lets you do what you want, when you want, and won't judge you for it. For our list today then, we're taking a look at some great games that allow players to enjoy themselves however they see fit. This doesn't necessarily mean they don't have any quest to do at all, but rather that players are free to explore, craft, and build at their own leisure in order to reach goals that they've set for themselves. I'm Peter from TripleJump, and here are 10 video games where you make your own fun. Number 10. Animal Crossing: New Horizons. When it was released in 2020, Animal Crossing: New Horizons was wildly popular. It was colourful, cute, and gave players a much-needed escape from everything that was going on in the world at that time. Part of its charm is the fact that it doesn't really make any demands of the player. You simply buy a getaway package from capitalist raccoon Tom Nook and fly off to a barely inhabited island to carve out your own piece of paradise. And how you do that really is up to you. Some folks get straight to making that moolah so they can pay off their initial loan and start expanding their homes, catch some fish or grow some fruit to sell to Tommy and Timmy, or try your hand at trading turnips on the stock market if you're looking to grow an investment fast, capital at risk. Maybe you're not too fussed about money though. After all, Tom Nook doesn't really care when you repay him, and so why should you? Perhaps you'd rather spend your days digging for fossils, making friends with your adorable critter neighbours, or hopping onto a flight to visit the islands of your real human pals. The world truly is your oyster, which incidentally you can sell to Tommy and Timmy for £2,000, just so you know. Number 9. No Man's Sky. We've directed a lot of hate towards No Man's Sky over the years, and in fairness to us, its launch was a bit of a plops show. With that said though, developer Hello Games have worked hard to bring No Man's Sky in line with their original vision, and these days the game is very much worth a play. No Man's Sky combines the action-adventure and survival genres to give players an experience with elements of both. The player character, the Traveller, starts out on a randomized planet and is equipped with a survival suit, jetpack, and multi-tool. The game is built around the core pillars of exploration, combat, survival, trading, and base building. So what you do after you spawn is really up to you. No Man's Sky boasts over 18 quintillion procedurally generated planets, which means you'll never go short of places to explore. If life on the road isn't for you though, perhaps one of those bajillions of planets is homely enough to settle down on. Take a wander, find some resources, and get to building yourself a base, you great big intergalactic architect you. Failing that though, you could just go around killing things. It's not what I'd do, but hey, it's your fun, not mine. Number 8. Rust. Do you dream of living on a lush, isolated island, foraging for materials, building yourself a nice little shelter, and then getting murdered to death by roving marauders? Then gosh dingles, are you going to love Rust. There's only one goal in the world of Rust: survive. However you do that is completely up to you. Players start out with nothing more in their possession than a rock and a torch, and can bash trees, break other rocks, and hunt animals in order to gain materials and food. Now, to be totally transparent, Rust is not a relaxing game. In fact, most of the time, it's downright stressful. But that doesn't mean you can't do whatever you'd like. You'll just be hugely anxious while you're doing whatever you'd like. You can go it alone by building yourself a base and becoming a bit of a hermit, living in isolation and crafting bits and pieces to help you get by. Alternatively though, you might prefer to team up with some friends to become a terrifying gang of bandits that goes around killing others and nicking their stuff. It may not be particularly honourable, but what does honour matter when you're doing whatever you want and having a whale of a time whilst you're at it? Number 7. Ark: Survival Evolved. Do you dream of living on a lush, isolated island, foraging for materials, building yourself a nice little shelter, and then getting murdered to death by roving dinosaurs this time? Oh, well then gosh dingles, are you going to love Ark Survival Evolved. Much like Rust, the aim of Ark is simply to survive as long as possible by accruing materials and building a shelter. But beyond that, players really can do as they please, and the options for things to do are limitless. Well, not limitless, but you know what I mean. You can, of course, play Ark by yourself on one of the game's PvE servers where you can hunt animals, explore a vast open world, and even tame yourself a dinosaur or two if you have the patience. You could even get on the grind and level up so you can take on one of Ark's many bosses if you're feeling strong enough. Alternatively though, you could get together with a couple of friends and face off against a rival clan in the PvP servers. Just make sure you've beefed up that home security before you head out, because you just know some sneaky git is going to break in and kill your Griffin.
No, not Griffin Rhys-Jones, he was all I had in the world!
Number 6. Scrap Mechanic. If you were in a spaceship that crash-landed on an unfamiliar planet, how do you think you'd fare? Would you A. just curl up into a ball and wait to be eaten by one of the indigenous critters, or B. head out to explore the world with reckless abandon and try to make the best of things? If you answered B, then you'll probably have a nice time with Scrap Mechanic, the sandbox survival title from Swedish developer and publisher Axolot Games. As with other survival titles, players start out with very little and must scavenge for supplies so they can craft things. In the beginning, the items available to craft are rather rudimentary, but as you press on through the game, you'll find additional crafting stations that will allow you to make everything from food to clothes. Ultimately, it's even possible to create complex machines that automate certain tasks, so usually laborious endeavors like farming become an absolute breeze. At the time of writing, Scrap Mechanic is still in early access, but it's still a hugely competent game, despite not having had a full release yet. And if you're feeling crafty, you really could do far worse. Number 5. Stardew Valley. When the daily grind is getting too much, many of us dream of getting away from it all. If work's piling up and your boss just won't get off your case, then moving out to the countryside and living the simple life might seem like a wonderful solution. Sadly, most of us aren't fortunate enough to be able to drop everything and grow potatoes for a living. But it's possible to simulate life on the farm by booting up Stardew Valley. Sure, Stardew Valley has some goals the game sets, like planting parsnips or finding Robin's axe, but at no point does it force you to do these things. In fact, you could go the entire time without so much as touching a root vegetable. You might be more into animal agriculture, in which case you'll want to fill that farm with barns and chicken coops. Feeling a little fishy, perhaps? You can easily make lots of money by heading down to the river and seeing what you can catch. Or if money isn't your thing, you could turn those fish into delicious culinary delights, or gift them to members of the community to make them like you. It's your small town life after all, so go do whatever makes you happy. Number 4. The Little Big Planet series. If you like video games, and odds are that if you're here you probably do, you've likely dreamed at some point about creating your own. Programming is kind of hard though, and if you don't have the patience to learn a coding language, then you're really not going to get very far. Fortunately, there are games out there, like those in the Little Big Planet series, that give players the tools to create their own levels without needing to know the difference between CSS and C++. The series' 3 main titles do come with linear story modes, and don't get us wrong, they're all great, but where the games really shine is in their create modes. The tools that come with each title allow players to get as creative as they'd like. Novice designers can easily throw together a simple but fun level, whilst more experienced players can use the toolset to create pretty much anything they can dream up. Once players are happy with what they've made, there's no need to keep it to themselves either, as the games allow them to share their magical and marvelous creations with the entire world. Although technically, anyone who downloads your game and plays it will be being told what to do as opposed to making their own fun, so that aspect doesn't actually fall under the scope of this video. So there. Number 3. Dreams. You might have played Little Big Planet and thought to yourself, this is great and all, but I sure wish I could do more. Well, consider that wish granted by 2020's Dreams, a title that literally allows players to make their own games, and therefore make their own fun, all without the need to fork out for an expensive programming degree. If you're really feeling creative, and also somewhat brave, you can start with a completely blank canvas and build a game entirely from scratch. Every element that goes into your creation can be built from the ground up, so if you can't find something that gels with your vision, you can make your own 3D models and sound effects. That is all a ton of work though, so those of you with less time on your hands might be better off with Dream's Edit mode, which allows players to take what someone else has already built and change it. Again, you can make elements yourself, or you can choose things that others have created. When it comes to making stuff in Dreams, the only limit is your own imagination. And even if you don't have much of one, plenty of other people do, so you can always settle for just playing with their creations instead. Number 2. The Sims series. We probably could have narrowed this entry down to just one game from the Sims franchise, but considering the series has made its name by giving players the power to do whatever they want, it would be remiss of us not to include the whole bunch. Though each of the 4 main Sims titles comes with different features, the crux of the games has remained the same ever since the OG Sims launched in 2000. Players start by creating a sim, or family thereof, and moving them into a vacant lot. If it's empty, they can build some sort of living space, or they can get to redecorating a pre-built home. Once that's done, it's really up to the player what they want to do. You might want your sim to climb that corporate ladder, in which case you better find them a job and dedicate yourself to ensuring they perform well enough to keep getting promotions. Alternatively, you could set about honing their skills, finding them love, or heck, even wheeling out the cheat codes and building them an unreasonably large house. You're not cheating, you're just being resourceful. Then of course, when you're done, you can have loads of fun, burning it all to the ground, killing everyone inside, and starting over. Just like God. And number 1, Minecraft. Is there any game out there that embodies the spirit of freedom more than Minecraft? Well, I haven't played every video game ever, so yeah, maybe. But is there any game out there that I'm aware of that embodies the spirit of freedom more than Minecraft? No. And that's why it's the number 1 spot on this list. If you're unfamiliar with Minecraft, then allow me to welcome you to Earth. I assume this is your first day here. Released in 2011, Minecraft is a sandbox game that plonks players down in the middle of a procedurally generated world and tasks them with absolutely nothing, actually. It's down to you to set your own goals and achieve them. Or not. I mean, I'm not your mum, you don't have to if you don't want to. You start out with absolutely nothing, but punch a few trees and you can get some wood, which can then be turned into rudimentary tools and weapons. From there, you really can do whatever you'd like. Feel like digging a big hole to see what you might find? You can do it. Want to raise animals so you can turn their produce into tasty treats? Be my guest. Have dreams of traveling the world and fighting mysterious and dangerous monsties? Better grab your sword and get to it, pal! No matter how you like your fun, Minecraft really does have you covered, and so it's no surprise it remains one of the most popular games of modern times.